Hello and welcome, everyone. Today, our batchmate Krishantha is going to present the topic about the art of fiction by Henry James. Therefore, before beginning the session, um, feel free to hear in this presentation and drop any question at the end of the session. And I think this presentation will be very helpful to you all. Thank you, Krishantha.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. Before we begin, let me introduce myself briefly. I am Krishantha Supun, a fourth year undergraduate of Department of Languages and Communication Studies. And thank you very much, Dr. Rohan Savrimuthu, for giving this opportunity to me. So today I'd like to talk to you about Henry James' critical essay named The Art of Fiction. Next slide. Under this topic, these are my areas. First and foremost, I hope to provide a small biography to Henry James. And next, I hope to provide a critical context and background of the essay. Then I listed out some key themes, some key aspects of the critical essay, like the nature of fiction according to Henry James' point of view, and next, artistic freedom and individuality, then experience and imagination, and role of the reader, and Henry James' critique of rules and conventions in fiction, writing and reading. And then I hope to provide the ideas of Henry James about the future of the novel and the legacy and the impact of the critical essay. So let's move to Henry James' biography. Actually, Henry James, he was born in New York City on April 15th, 1843. He can be considered as a British American writer. Henry James was a cosmopolitan figure. That means he was a citizen of the world, and he moved freely Europe, England, and America. He was perhaps more at home in Europe than he was in America, but the root of his life belonged to the American continent. And he's America's most influential critics and literary theorist. At the age of 33, he took up residence in Europe, living first for a year in Paris and then permanently in England, as I said before. Henry James' brother, he's also a well-known figure in the world, the William James. He's a respected psychologist and a well-known philosopher. And this remarkable figure passed away on February 28, 1960s in London. These are the basic things about Henry James' biography. Then we are moving to his literary career. Next slide. When we're talking about his literary career, we can divide it. We can be divided into three categories. The first, early period. The second one is the middle years, and the later manner. Here I listed out some novels written by our Henry James, and these are the novels. But Henry James considers as many critics and readers resent the deliberate withholding of information and the slow development found in Henry James' novel. But the James life was lived with a high degree of leisure and refinement. Anyhow, we can listed out his novels like this, and instead of that, he contributed to so many critical works and editorial works. So next, we hope to moving into our essay. Next slide. The Art of Fiction, that is published in 1884. So under that, the first point, the nature of fiction. Next. Before that, nature of fiction, I hope to provide a small context and what are the background of this critical essay. First point, The Art of Fiction, that is a critical essay by Henry James that published in 1884 in Longman's magazine. And actually, it's a rejection of ideas. Sir Walter Besant in 1884. Sir Walter Besant given a lecture entitled Fiction as One of the Fine Arts. Through this critical essay, Henry James put forth his rejection, his rebuttal towards Sir Walter Besant's ideas. And also, it's a kind of manifesto of literary realism. And that describes the popular demand for novels that are satirized with sentimentality of pessimism. And also Besant emphasized the importance of rules and principles in writing fiction, advocating for a more structured effort. He given rules and regulations to writers. But Henry James is completely different. He championed artistic freedom and the individuality of the novelist. Next slide. Okay, when we are moving into the critical essay, we can firstly talk about the nature of fiction. Henry James begins by questioning the very nature of novel. Yeah. I quote from the novel, critical essay, a novel is a novel as a pudding is a pudding. As a pudding is a pudding. Before that, I mentioned, he begins the question. He begins the critical essay questioning the very nature of fiction, asserting that its fundamental purpose is to reflect the complexities and nature of human life. And Henry James argues that a novel's value lies in its ability to capture the essence of human experience. And with all its diversity and unpredictability. Here I quote, a novel is a novel as a pudding is a pudding. What illustrate? Throughout this statement, James suggests what? That just as a pudding is defined by its inherent qualities and not by any external definitions or rules, a novel should be understood and appreciated for its own unique characteristics. This means that a novel doesn't uh, need to conform to any particular set of rules or conventions to be considered legitimate or valuable. And instead, it should be judged based on its own merits and creativity and the way it represents the life, much like how a pudding is simply appreciated for its taste and texture. And regardless of any preconceived notions about what a pudding should be, here uh, likewise, Henry James put forth his ideas about fiction, especially in novel. He argues that a fiction is a complex and multifaceted art form that cannot be confined to rigid rules or formulaic structures. And he asserts that the primary aim of fiction is to represent life, as I mentioned earlier, emphasizing that this representation must be as varied and diverse as life itself. It depends. Okay, next slide. And the novel is a living organism. That's a breathing, speaking story of the man. And it constantly evolving and adapting. This adaptability is more important here. I quote, A novel is, in its broadest definition, a personal, a direct impression of life that, to begin with, constitutes its value, which is greater or less according to the intensity of the impression. But there will be no intensity at all, and therefore no value, unless there is freedom to feel and say, unquote. Here, likewise, Henry James illustrate about the novel and its broadness, and the novel's dynamic, evolving nature that emphasizing the importance of personal impression and its artistic freedom in creating valuable and authentic fictional works. So, likewise, we can illustrate about the nature of fiction according to Henry James' point of view. So next we are going to talk about, next slide, artistic freedom and individuality. This also a very important point in this essay. Actually, artistic freedom is a core argument in this essay. And Henry James illustrates that a novelist must be free to explore any subject, a style, or a style or form that they choose. Here I quote, the provisions of art is all life, all feeling, all observation, all vision. No one can say in advance just what it shall choose to do, or just what element it shall combine. This statement reveals about inclusivity of art, and Henry James emphasizes that the art encompasses all aspects of human experience, and art draws the full spectrum of human existence, and capturing every moment of joy, sorrow, love, and despair and all. It conveys the emotional depth and complexity uh, of human emotions completely. And art involves a keen perception of the world and paying attention to detail that others might overlook. And this statement also talk about incorporates, the arts incorporates the artist's unique perspective and imaginative interpretation of the reality. And likewise, he emphasizes the essentiality of this freedom is for the creation of original and authentic works. Okay, next slide. Henry James criticizes the notion that there are certain subjects or themes that are inappropriate for fiction. That means art does not follow a set of formula or set of rule. For example, James Joyce, he breaks traditional narrative structures with the stream of consciousness in his Ulysses. And these techniques and the conventional use of language, he breaks these each and every uh, traditional narrative structures. This novel, in a way, actually, this novel is an innovative approach that illustrates the unpredictability of art and its ability to redefine literary norms. Likewise, Henry James also talk about these things, and the themes that are inappropriate for fiction. And he believes that the worth of a subject is determined by the treatment is received for the author. Here I quote from the essay, there is no subject in the world that will not yield interesting results in the hand of sensitive talent. The execution belongs to the author alone. It is what his genius has chosen, what his experience and observation have suggested, what his imagination has inspired, and what his knowledge of life has taught him. Likewise, he uh, talked about the artistic freedom and individuality. Next, he talk about the next slide. Talk about the experience and imagination. The conflict between experience and imagination, also a key theme, key area in this essay. Here, James places a significant emphasis on the novelist's ability to utilize both experience and imagination. But Sir Besant, in his previous lecture, he talked about only experience. But our author Henry James talk about the utilize both experience and imagination. He suggests that writers' personal experience provide a rich foundation for their work, but it is the imaginative transformation of this experience that gives fiction its power and depth. Here I quote, experience is never limited and it is never complete. It is an immense sensibility, a kind of huge spider web of the finer silken threads suspended in the chamber of consciousness. Likewise, Henry James talk about the imagination and experience both. Here, this quote encapsulates James' view that while personal experience is crucial and it is the imaginative process that truly elevates and enriches fiction. This freedom to combine diverse elements and perspectives ensures that art remains a reflection of the vast and ever-changing human experience, and that is the continuity, surprising and engaging with its audience. This is also very important, the role of the reader. We hope to talk about that. Okay, next slide. Yeah, this interplay between reality and imagination and the allows the novelist to create compelling and believable works. Here I again quote the same statement. The only reason for the existence of a novel is that it does attempt to represent the life. That's why novel is important in the society. That's why novel is important in the literature. It represents the life and it represents the reality. This imaginative process involves embellishing, altering, and reinterpreting real life experiences to create a cohesive and engaging story. That's how uh, Henry James talked about experience and imagination. So I earlier mentioned about the role of the reader. Next, we are moving to talk about the role of the reader. Next slide. Yeah. Here first statement, what is the function of the novel but to make you see, and it is in proportion as it makes you see that it is successful to be perfectly accurate. It should perhaps be more becoming to say that it is successful in proportion as it makes you think, feel and see, unquote. Likewise, Henry James also addressed the role of the reader in the creation of fiction. He asserts that the reader must actively engage with the text rather than passively consuming the story. Readers are encouraged to interpret and interact with the fiction and bring in their own experiences and perspectives to the process. And this engagement is vital as it allows the novel to come alive in different ways for different readers. Each readers can interpret, uh, they can provide unique interpretations and add the different layers of meaning to the narrative, to the same narrative. And it can make in the reading experience within dynamic and multifaceted point of views. Likewise, he believed that the reader's perception and interpretation are crucial to success of a novel or else a fictional work. Okay, next slide. And a good novelist must engage readers' imagination. That's why I said about the active participation, active engagement with the novel, making them an active participants in the narrative. And this engagement is what brings a novel to life, making it a dynamic and interactive art form. It is multifaceted. Here I quote, what is the function of the novel but to make you see? This is emphasized by the Henry James, and it is in proportion as it makes you see that it is successful. That's how Henry James explained about the reader's role. And another thing is Henry James indirectly critique the role of critics. The critics also very important in the field of literature, in the field of novel, and critics in shaping readers' perceptions of novels. Here, James implies that readers should form their own opinion rather than relying solely on critical judgments. This view empowers readers to trust their instincts and their judgments, fostering more personal and direct relationship with the text. Okay, next slide. Yeah, here I talk about the critique of Henry James' critique of rules and conventions. He rejects Sir Besant's ideas about structured approach to novel. Here, James critique the prescriptive rules and conventions that some critics and writers try to impose on fiction. I quote, there are no laws for the novelist. There are no laws for the novelist. There are none of the painter. Here, there is no reason why a painting should not express every feeling and every fancy which stirs our imagination. Unquote. Yeah, likewise, Henry James compares the novelist with the painter. Yeah, he suggests that both forms of art are governed by the same principle of freedom. And this implies that just as painter is free to use colors, shapes, and forms to express their vision about his imagination without being bound by strict rules, without being limited to a specific structure. Okay, a novelist should also have the liberty, should also have the freedom to explore his themes, narratives, and style without being confined to traditional literary conventions. This artistic freedom is essential. It is must for the innovation and creativity in both literature and visual arts. Likewise, he argues that such rules stifle creativity and limit the potential of the novelist. So, move to the next slide. And Henry James advocates for a more open and flexible approach. He rejects all the rules and regulations where the writer's instincts and artistic vision are given precedence over rigid guidelines. And also, he believes that just as painters have the freedom to explore and express their vision, so too should novelists. Both have the freedom to express their ideas using colors for painter, using letters and text for novelist. And last point, the writer's instincts, artistic vision, and personal experiences are what give a novel its distinctive voice and authenticity. That's how Henry James put forth his ideas about rules and conventions, rules and regulations in writing, in fiction. Okay, next slide. Yeah, there are no rules for artists. James challenged the notion that there are fixed standards for what constitute good or proper art. Okay, this perspective that the rejecting rules and regulation that encourage artists to break away from conventional rules, conventional boundaries, and explore new lands, new territories to the literature. For example, like modern writers like Virginia Woolf and James Joyce, they are break away from traditional plot structures, and their the character development is somewhat different from the national traditional uh, structure, and they are explore depth human consciousness and human perceptions through their writing. Using this land, using this background, Henry James talked about the future of the novel at the end of his essay. James concludes by expressing this optimistic idea about the future of novel. I quote here, art lives upon discussion, upon experiment, upon curiosity, upon variety of attempt, upon the exchange of views and the comparison of standpoints. And there is a presumption that those times when no one has anything particular to say about it and has no reason to give for practice or preference, though there may be times of genius, are not times of development, are times possibly even a long way of dullness. That's how Henry James talk about his optimistic, very positive ideas about the future of the novel. Next slide. Likewise, Henry James believed that as long as novelists continue to push boundaries and explore new territories, fiction will remain a vibrant and essential form of artistic expression. He encouraged all the writers to uh, break all the rules and all the readers to provide new interpretations to the same literary work, same fiction, same writing. And he encourages writers to embrace their individuality. This individuality is a key theme in American writing, American literature, and he to seek out new ways of representing the complexities of human life, because Henry James talk about the representation of life is the existence of novel. Okay, next. Next, I'm going to talk about the impact of this, the art of fiction and its legacy in writing, in the literary canon. The art of fiction has had a lasting impact on literary criticism and the development of modern fiction. It is very helpful to develop in the modernism and postmodernism, because Henry James influence writers to put forth their individuality. And James emphasizes on artistic freedom and the importance of individual voice has influenced countless writers and critics. And as I said earlier, his ideas laid the groundwork, that is the background for later development in literary theory, including modernism and postmodernism, which further challenge traditional notions of narrative and form. Likewise, writers break away from these that orthodox styles of narrative structures. They introduce new ways to express fictional works into the reader. Okay, next. So we are in the ending of this presentation. I'm trying to grab all the ideas together here. Henry James' essay, "The Art of Fiction," is a foundational text in the study of literature. It's a very important text when understanding what is writing, what is fiction, and what is the role of writer, what is the role of reader, likewise. Through this articulate defense of artistic freedom, actually it talk about the freedom and individuality, and his insightful analysis of the nature of fiction. Henry James offers a powerful argument for the value and importance of the novel, and his ideas continue to resonate with writers and readers alike, encouraging a deeper appreciation of the art of storytelling. Actually, storytelling is a civilization. It is came from the beginning of the human. Here, Henry James trying to encourage the role of storytellers in the society. That's how I talk about the Henry James essay, The Art of Fiction. Next slide. I think now you have an idea about the essay. Thank you very much for listening and allocating your valuable time for my talk today. Thank you. Thank you very much.